Hello, Amanda. It's really nice to have you again today. I just want to start a conversation with you. And I thought it'd be a good thing to start by you introducing yourself, telling us just a little bit about you, what you do, and your passions.
So I'm Amanda. I run my own community interest company in Milton Keynes, where I've lived since 1985. Raised my children here. I've worked here whilst also working in Oxfordshire and Northamptonshire. I came here after I graduated in 1985, began my first social work job, which I really enjoyed. I was the first social worker in Milton Keynes for adolescents. So I basically climbed the social work management ladder. I didn't like it much because the higher up the ladder you go, the less real people you see and the more paperwork you have. So I went to Northamptonshire as a senior social worker, then I went to Oxfordshire as a social work manager, then I came back to Milton Keynes and lectured at what was De Montfort University, and I was also the practice placement coordinator for the social work students, as well as the tutor for students with disabilities. I have a disability myself, which I was born with and which has been exacerbated by life-saving surgery. I can't walk any longer and I have no short-term memory. So that takes a bit of logistical handling. So as I said, I raised my children here. They're all grown up now, but my 23-year-old, he is upstairs working. He got a job. He actually got a job, this current job, in lockdown.
Oh, wow.
So he came back from university last September. He worked at Milton Keynes College where he'd studied for his A-levels, which was kind of nice because he felt like he was giving something back. He is now working for a big firm, usually housed in the Pinnacle in Milton Keynes, but he's only been there twice, I think. So he works upstairs, I work downstairs. It works quite well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amanda. I mean, it's amazing just to hear your story. 1985 in Milton Keynes, first social worker for adolescents, climbing up the ladder. I loved what you said about the higher up, more paperwork and less people, and you definitely are a people person. So I was just wondering, because you started by talking about Pandora, and could you just tell us a little bit more about how you set that up and what it does?
I took voluntary redundancy from the probation service in 2011, and myself and my husband decided to home educate our youngest son because his middle school teacher, as it was then, primary school teacher, head teacher, said he'd get lost. He was very creative. He's not a boy's boy, if you see what I mean, in the traditional sense, but he's very creative. He did his degree in English literature. He's done a master's in digital publishing, and he has severe dyslexia, which wasn't discovered until he was 15. So he kind of has the same mentality as me. He doesn't see obstacles, he sees challenges, and challenges are to be overcome. So we kind of work on those things together. It's nice to have him home so that I can tell him about the challenges I face too, and we kind of share. So Pandora was set up because in 2013, I was asked by a very close friend to apply for a training manager job at a disability resource centre, which I did. And the job involved designing a whole raft of a really comprehensive training campaign for disabled people and their carers who were personally employed by the disabled people through the personal payment system. So that year there were about 22 courses I organised and got people to run. I ran some myself, and we got over 1,000 people through that training programme in a year.
Wow.
So both disabled people and their carers, which was a fantastic experience, except that I was quite appalled by, I kind of naively thought that going to the Disability Resource Centre, they'd know that disabled people are simply like everybody else, but with additional stuff. We've all got additional stuff. I can safely say the worst 9 months of my life. So I basically decided I can do this better than this. So that's how Pandora started. And Pandora stands for promoting achievement, nurturing diversity, and openly respecting ability.
I love those words, every single one of them.
So basically, I set it up with my husband, and he always says I'm the face of Pandora. So we'll go with that. It's kind of nice for the ego. I set it up so that I could work not just with disabled people, but with people on the margins of society. So we've worked with Syrian refugees, we've worked with the Somali community. And what we did was we run a series of workshops and training events. Disability awareness I run for voluntary and statutory agencies whenever they ask for it. And because I think everybody needs disability awareness training, no matter who they are. And we kind of set up a group workshop called Sit and Stitch, which I'll just tell you the main highlights. And actually out of that came a request from the Somali women who came with their children to be on that workshop. They all started to learn to make their own clothes. Yeah. So that the idea being that they could then set up their own businesses, which some of them have gone on to do in terms of making clothes and stuff. And of course, it saves money.
Yes.
So we had many happy trips to the market to buy material and so on and so forth, because I was very concerned that people learn from the bottom to the top. We also had a very successful drama group, which we've taken a break from. I got all the young people involved, and a lot of those young people were home educated for a variety of reasons. But we also had adults. The thing about Pandora is it's totally inclusive. Sometimes it runs things just for girls. Sometimes it runs things just for women. Or I think people often make the mistake of thinking inclusion has to mean everybody all of the time. And actually, sometimes people aren't ready for that. So our drama group they wrote their own stuff and I just facilitated. They made their own costumes, they made their own scenery, and they went to the Leatherhead Drama Festival 3 years running and won awards every time. So it was a really, really good experience for all of us. Very hard work.
I particularly like the phrase when you said people learn from the bottom to the top. I think that's such an important thing to bear in mind.
I do think it's important because obviously with the drama group, I had plenty of potential divas who like cavorting about on the stage, but I was very keen that they learned to fundraise. You know, how are we going to buy this material? How are we going to make this scenery? How are we going to whatever we have to do? So I taught them how to write funding letters, and we went and did our own shopping so that they could see and get the experience of actually it's not all glamorous. Mm-hmm. Sometimes doing business is actually quite tedious. You know, I'm sure if you've written bids and so on and so forth, you feel exactly the same way as I do about them. So I kind of wanted it to be very much into the holistic learning approach. Mm-hmm. So we did that. And now Pandora has become much more strategic in the sense that I sit on quite a few committees. So I'm chair of Milton Keynes Soroptimist, which focuses on improving the quality and potential of life of women and young girls in Milton Keynes, but also it's part of an international organisation. So I chair that group. I'm vice chair for Works for Us, which is a local employment charity. I'm vice chair of trustees there. And I often do a lot of public speaking for various companies about my experiences as a disabled woman and that kind of thing, really.
So I just wanted to come back to 2020 because 2020 obviously was a year like most of us had never seen before. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you about your personal reflections of 2020, especially as a woman. Any joys, any highlights and learnings that you think we can hold on to?
I actually started to shield a week before Boris told us to those who were particularly vulnerable. I began that, and to be honest, I think this is probably true for many disabled people. The social isolation, if you like, is not new to many disabled people. I haven't found that bit particularly hard. And also I live with, as I've said, with my husband and my son. So it's not like I'm alone. It's a very noisy household. So from that point of view, from the people I was talking to online and in terms of business and stuff, the people with disabilities actually, many of them have fared much better psychologically than many people who are so-called normal, because going out sometimes, I can't walk. So going out, for example, can be a bit like a strategic campaign in a war. Can I get through their front door? Can I go to the loo? Can I reach things that I'm going to need to reach while I'm talking? Can I make coffee? Always very important, my coffee. So I haven't had to do any of that. So everything I've done, and it also gave me the opportunity to become a Zoom queen. My 23-year-old is always laughing at me because I'm so scared of it. But actually, it was a case of having to learn how to do it. I'm still scared of it. So it's given me a lot of new skills. I've taken up I'm also doing a course in editing and copywriting because I'm a writer as well. I'm writing a weekly blast for the Women's Equality Party. I'm the comms person for them in Milton Keynes. And I've been asked to contribute to a book about redefining disability. So I've been busier than ever.
Yes.
And a lot of people I know have suffered greatly because of work going downhill, and some people even losing their jobs or having to go on furlough. I've been very fortunate. I haven't had any of that. It's meant spending almost 24/7 on the computer, but I'm learning new things. I'm having lots of challenges. I turned a lot of my courses that I do for training other people. I turned those into online courses so that we could do that. I'm one of the facilitators for the I Am Remarkable program. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a Google international program. And I went on a training course. It's about raising people's confidence. That's my core business, really, is to raise people's confidence and help them find the direction they want to go in. Because as a child, I was always taught, my careers advisor told me, be a basket weaver or a flower arranger. And that was simply because I had a disability, because at the time I was doing A-levels in English, French and history. And being a very stroppy teenager, it was at that point I thought, that's wrong. That is just wrong. So I did my social work training in King's Cross in London and Tower Hamlets, two of the most deprived areas you can go for. So you see, challenge is kind of my middle name.
Well, you said it earlier on. You say you don't see obstacles, but you see challenges to be overcome.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what you just described in 2020, because it feels like you took the opportunities to learn new things and to even raise the bar, higher in terms of what you do and the things that you engage with and the people that you interact with. So if we think about 2021, so we are in 2021. So what are your hopes and aspirations for 2021?
I want to write that book I've always promised myself I'm going to write, because I've got like 4 books on the go. And because I'm so busy, I don't actually have a lot of emotional energy to get into them when I have time. I'm also writing a pantomime, which hopefully can be performed in 21-22. This probably is what most women would say. I would like my children to feel settled and fulfill their potential. That's always my underlying core thing. If nothing else goes right, I'd like that to go right.
Brilliant. I think those are three very great hopes that you've just outlined. I mean, where you find the time to write the book and to write for the pantomime and do that at the same time. But I know you will. I just want to ask you, for those who are listening to you today, if you had one word of hope that you would want to say to them. So everybody's had a different experience of 2020. Some it's been good and they've been able to take the opportunities. For some, it's been slightly more challenging as women. So if there was one word of hope that you wanted to just say to the women for 2021, to raise their confidence, what would you say to them?
I would say, be kind to yourselves and to others. But I think as women, self-care comes very low down on the list of priorities for most of us. Yes. And I would say, be kind to yourselves and everything else will pan out.
Excellent. So, of course, we're talking about International Women's Day. And we know that the theme this year is Choose to Challenge, which is right down your street,
Absolutely.
And it's all about creating an inclusive world, like you talked about, and recognizing that from challenge actually comes change. So I guess what I want to ask you is, what are you going to choose to challenge this year as part of this theme, and why?
My current overriding passion is to challenge the idea that we all need to go back to normal, because the old normal wasn't as great as people may have said it was in March, April, May, June last year. And certainly for disabled people, the pandemic has shown that we are extremely resourceful. We have skills and knowledge to offer. Groups I'm involved in, we've been writing newsletters, we've created newsletters to keep people in touch with each other and help people stay connected. We've run courses in resilience and so on and so forth, which is another one of my key words. So for me, the challenge this year is going to be to challenge the idea that we should be going back to pre-COVID. What we should be doing is learning the lessons from COVID and looking at what went well, what didn't go so well, and amalgamating the two things, because I think then we will have the best of both worlds. And for me, it will open up opportunities for disabled people who are often very marginalised, particularly in the job market, because we've all learned now that actually for many, many of us, it is possible to still be productive and work from home and balance family. So for me, that's the challenge, is to get an amalgamation of all the good bits and chuck away the bad bits from both periods.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amanda. That's been absolutely lovely. I've enjoyed talking to you, and it's been great to hear all the things that you do and the things that you're doing for women across different parts of Milton Keynes and beyond. As we wrap up now, I don't know if that you have any final words that you want to leave behind.
I would just say, people often say to me, oh, you appear so confident and you're this and you're that. And actually, I'm very insecure, not as confident as I appear. But what I would say to people who are in the same boat as me is take the risk or you'll lose the chance. I'm showing my age now, but going back to Erica Young's book, feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to feel the fear and we're going to do it anyway. So thank you so much, Amanda. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Paula. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Wednesday. Thank you very much.